So let's focus in on this game. It's ACEND Gambit, right? It's in the Red Bull home ground, and it's in the quarterfinals. So I'm going to explain to you guys how these teams are approaching things. ACEND, pretty fucking serious. They want a lot of experience going into champions. They realize that the biggest thing that let them down was being able to play in high pressure environments and adapt to opponents and make the smart decisions in the right places and still keep up all of their fragging, right? So they were one of the teams that came into Red Bull home ground and they were playing properly. They ran the normal comps. They ran some new stuff, sure, like Bonko playing KO on ACEND, but I believe that was like them testing some serious shit. We heard snippets from like even when they were playing in the LVP games, and they're still trying to test out proper stuff that they've done in scrims. I think because they really want that experience heading in. Now, Gambit, on the other hand, I think, here's my personal theory about Gambit. When you look at how they play in their other games and in this one as well, the fact that you look at Defo's stat line, who is normally not the hard carry Jett, and he has 13 first kills and 11 first deaths, says to me, just from the stats themselves, that they are trying a very different style. They are trying, in this tournament, I think, a style that is more similar to some of the other teams in the world. That's like the very Jett hyper carry style, right? So I'm thinking like how Ten's plays in some of the online games where it's, you know, the team's built entirely around him, or actually not even some of the online games, some of the LAN games as well. I'm thinking about like the Yay, the Buzz, the Leaf, the like these kind of teams. Gambit has never been one of those teams. Defo is not a hard carry Jett player. He's a role-playing Jett player. And in this game, and in many of the other games that Gambit played, even though they didn't play that many, but the group stage games and in this quarterfinal game, Defo was going deep. I mean, they were playing fucking hard around their Jett, which is not a style they normally do. So here's my theory, is that they came into this event seeing if that was a viable style that they could run against some teams sometimes, that they could add in this like curveball where they have a different style, where they can rely much more heavily on Defo, and he doesn't just have to be this role player for the team. That's my theory, and you'll kind of see this as we go through. Like, look at Split, for example, right? They're playing Split here, and 8 out of his 11 first kills come from Split, and he has 10 first deaths. I mean, Redgar also has 6, which I'm interested in because I didn't notice that when I watched the game live. But a lot of first kills and a lot of first deaths, really heavy Jett-focused play. And just if you look at the rest of their comp, I mean, the Sova on Split is super weird, but you're probably going to be sending like Drone for Defo to play off, Flashes for Defo to play off. This team comp is structured to the point where it has to be Defo going in. Then, when you look at bind too, this is the normal bind composition. So I'm less wondering whether this was a Jett style. I actually haven't watched bind yet at all. But just again, based on the stats of him having 5 first kills, despite the fact that they lost 13-0, this to me says that they were doing some crazy aggressive shit. Just looking at the stat lines, right? We've got 6 first bloods for Gambit. And so that's nearly half. So there's only 7 first bloods over here, which means that ACEND won 100% of the rounds in which they got first kill, and they won 100% of the rounds in which they got first death, and they were pretty much 50-50 split. So that to me implies that they're probably doing some hyper aggro shit. I haven't watched the VOD yet though, but that's my thought process coming into this. So in terms of seriousness, I hope that highlights some of my thoughts as we head into this review. But let's have a look. Okay, so just to set things up here, this is Gambit on attack. This map ends up being a, what was it, 13-11? No, 15-13? I can't remember. It was like some crazy high thing. And just a moment to talk about ACEND's composition. They play a pretty basic comp here. They're playing the Omen. They play the Sage. It's like, it's pretty fucking default. They've got double duelist. I mean, you would have seen this for years. Years. Yeah.
I mean, I have to come back to it, but you obviously have their Instamat, which is a different discussion altogether when we talk about Gambit.
So we've got Nats playing on his own on the pistol with a trip, just watching for aggression. He knows that people have pushed up aggressively on A because they broke his cam pretty instantly, and he can hear where those shots come from. There's a wall in mid as well here. They've just gone for a B exec. Broken the Cypher Trip stuff. Pretty basic push, just using some of their Sova utility, using some of their Breach utility. Ascend have the wall at their back, so they can go for a retake as that wall is still up. A Bone Cold Smoke just... he hit some really nice shots on the people trying to swing through it. They're trying to play off the contact of the people at Pillar. And Nats had essentially no impact in this round. So, it's a fast pop, which is not something that Gambit usually do, which is somewhat interesting. And Nats was not really given any chance of having impact because his late lurk was broken by the wall, and they're all dead because of the fast retake by the time he rotates back. Why does Ascend not play Astra? They do play Astra, just not all the time. So, Gambit are taking an eco here, and it looks like they're just going to try and run a... Don't know where that recon went to. People don't normally play Sova on this map, so I don't really know where all the recons go and stuff. In fact, I didn't even see it on the minimap. Did it miss or something? We'll see it later on. I'm sure it's not that important. So this is... This was still a 3-person push towards A this round, but they put the Sage here this time as well. Anticipating, I think, that there was just going to be a fast hit towards A. Because there's not much else that you can really do on split with pistols. Like round 2 is quick round time. So if you take a look at what the utility is here, you've got this. This could be a suck, but I'm pretty sure it's just going to be a smoke. If it was going to be a suck, I think it'd be positioned a little. In fact, I don't even know whether that timing works now after the Astra nerf. Anyway, it just looks like smokes for here and here. This will be probably a suck early so that you can get priority over this angle. And then this, I'm not exactly sure what this one is. Because normally if you were going to try and take ramp control, you'd put like fake star here and then you put one more like in this position so that you can stun or suck so that you can get priority on the angle again. But this one, don't really know. We'll see anyway. Okay, so it was just a fake smoke. Not exactly sure why. That might be something important for their default later on, but we'll just keep it in the back of my mind. So they just smoke up towards the top. Sorry, I'm just going to whip this back a little bit because I wasn't looking at the Breach and Sova utility about what happened in mid. So they drone. So they smoke ropes, drone up mid at the same time as sucking on B main. B main's being fought for, right? So they're more easily going to be able to take B heaven control at this point. But look at the look at how spread Defo is from these two players. This is not normal Gambit shit. I mean, this comp is not normal Gambit either, but Defo is just out on an island right now against a bonus round, but he's pretty confident that there's going to be 2 players playing B main, right? So he knows that Heaven is going to be pretty open because there was a slow orb and the one-way playing here. So even though that could be something that they're conditioning you to just give up B main in the early rounds, at the beginning of the map, they're probably going to be fighting over this. So there's probably going to be at least 2 people here. It would be dangerous for only the Sage to be holding in case, you know, there was like flash, drone, and you tried to re-clear it as soon as the Sage wall went down. But Defo's got up here very quickly. There could easily still be another player, though, holding stairs right now. Once they find Zeke, though, I think they can be pretty confident that the other 2 players will be playing towards A. They've heard CNED up in this position as well. Really nice push from Defo, and the fact that he didn't overpush that, I quite like. He just held, waiting for the player to come in and rotate. They're actually disassembling them this round. They're just finding them making that extra little info push as well. So what was the key in this round for winning it for Gambit? It was the fact that they reactively, or not even reactively, they were planning to take mid control with the drone anyway, but as soon as they realized that B was being fought over, they took even more space in B heaven because they know that there's going to be 2 players playing around B main. And they were smart enough not to transition it immediately into a sight hit. They cleared out ropes, made sure, I mean, found the first pick. But even if even if Zeke isn't there, even if Zeke was holding, like, let's say Zeke is not holding ropes, and instead Zeke is holding the B heaven area here, and they've just got a trip in ropes or something, right, to try and cover it. Defo's going to be taking a duel here that he's got a decent chance of being able to win, but the eggs are really... The eggs are in the Defo basket there to be able to win that if he gets contested early in B heaven by one player, but it's still a one-on-one. You know there's not going to be two players there. And yeah, they stunned heaven as well, just in case. Pretty much full buy v full buy. Keyless has Spectre, but apart from that. So we don't have any aggression towards B main this time. They've got passive information towards B heaven. Sorry, A ramp. Blah. Passive information towards A ramp with the cam. I still don't understand what this recall smoke is for. Oh, now I understand. Okay, so this recalled smoke they used in the previous round, and it seems like it's going to block off a timing for the stun and then a flash probably, and then a dash up ramp. So they're going to do an aggressive play up ramp. And I guess this Astra pull just gives Defo the timing to be able to get on the angle in case somebody's holding there and doesn't get affected by the stun. Like from further back. Oh, it's a suck, actually. So previously they just recalled, but this time it's a suck. All right, I would have thought a suck would be more towards this area rather than at the back. But with the stun, this is really nice because the stun slows you down, so you're guaranteed to get sucked into this. And they put this down in the previous round as well. So I think that's pretty likely to catch like a Jett that's walking forwards. They just think, oh, they're just going to recall it again. But actually, you have to start respecting the star because they could run this play on you. But again, not a normal Gambit play. Like a fast flash and dash up a ramp. Not normal. With the dart heaven too. Oh yeah, so that's where that dart landed. So that was the dart that they used in round 2, I think. Yeah, and the dart... So there's a couple of things that are going on here. There's the stun into the suck combo. Then you've got the flash and dash. Actually, I don't know whether he flashes, but he at least dashes. The stun suck should be enough. And then you've got a smoke here to stop Defo having to worry about people playing at the back. You know, like there could be somebody holding at the back here or at the back here of heaven. And so the smoke just stops him having to pre-aim these positions, and instead he can keep his crosshair at head height for close. But then also they've got the recon at back heaven so that if people get outside of the smoke, there's a chance of him being able to get a wallbang kill on somebody. You know, if CNED isn't tucked behind the corner here and he gets lit up by the recon and he's behind the smoke, that's an easy kill for Defo. So even though they're doing this completely different style for Gambit, they still have all the pieces working wonderfully. I'm wondering why they've got such a fast star there as well. That's a smoke for heaven, but there's no chance they're going to be able to scale off that smoke. I mean, maybe if Defo gets an immediate kill, they could. The spike's towards B anyway. But I don't know whether this is supposed to be a fake or whether they're just making an early round play for a pick. Because this wasn't an all-in A play, right? This is just a play for an early round pick, trying to abuse the predictability of where people start. Oh no, it does look like this was an attempt at a fake, because they're trying to get in just based off the fact that there's players today. This isn't going to work, though. Ascend didn't bite, and the paranoia there was useful. Just pushing them back. And now it's essentially reset, and Gambit have no drone and no dash, and they didn't get an early pick. And they have no mid control. They're having to contact up mid. Oof. Well, they both found picks. Oh, God. Okay. Well, actually, Zeke hasn't been punished for that. Great entry from Nats. Well, that was... This round ended up being a bit of a rifle skill round, but also they cut noise in B and in mid and contacted on mid, and they forced peeks out of the players on B and forced peeks out of the players on mid as well. The fact they win both is huge. But, yeah, Bone Cold peeks here because he wants to gather info of whether or not they're close. And then, who was it? Starzo peeks here because he wants to gather info to see whether they're pushing up mid. I mean, they immediately took B main control just based off that single suck that they've been playing. And now they're just droning into B pretty instantly. I don't think this is necessarily reactive. And Nats could be feeding them information that there's a deep smoke and a cam and someone's pushed up on the orb. He would have heard all of that information. But I think Gambit were pretty much planning on doing this anyway. So you got a drone, stun into hell. Defo should be able to isolate this kill. But he did walk into a crossfire there too. And Starzo hits a nice shot. And Defo is, you know, out there on his own. Completely just a single player with no assistance. And this style, I'm not a huge fan of Gambit playing like this because they also frequently have a like perma lurker in Nats. It's not that he's really heavy lurking all the time. Nats does get involved with things pretty heavily on the attack side sometimes, but on this map in particular, Nats is not going to be with them at B pretty much ever there to be able to assist with the hit. So you have the Sova, you have the Breach, who are all going to be sat behind. And unless Redgar is going to be your second guy in, which he doesn't really play that role, you're going to have Defo completely isolated on an island there. They end up winning it. I mean, it's just Gandalf in the end. But I don't think it makes sense for Gambit as a team to be playing like this.
Gambit built up a bit of a banquet. Is initially committed towards mid, and this time around, two members of Gambit will explore from sewers.
The stack though is.
Wait, what the fuck was that? That looked like it was supposed to be a Vision Striker's flash and dash, and there were no flashes. Like, Shados is holding a stun for Heaven, but they have no plans to take mid control, and they didn't drone it this round. I have no idea what they were doing. I mean, that is just inting, what they've just done. So he smokes himself into mid. I guess they stun male this time.
There's three players initially committed towards mid, and this time around, two members of Gambit will explore from soup.
I think this is absolutely bizarre. It's not even the aggression though. Like, there's three players in mid right now, but even if there's no one there, why are you dashing up mid in the early round without... Who are you trying to kill? Unless they are hard reading, there's a player right here. I think this has got to be a punish on the Sage wall, right? I think they've put a star here and they've stunned. I think the only thing that makes sense is he's trying to dash to punish a Sage wall. They think... But the thing is, the Sage has not been walling mid every round. So there's going to be... Think about the range of times where this works versus doesn't work. Doesn't work anytime they're aggressive. You know that CNED has enough money for an AWP, and so they're quite likely to be playing mid this round. That is a read that you could make. They're unlikely to be walling mid if CNED has an AWP, or at least they're less likely. They could still, of course. He could be AWPing B. He could be AWPing ramps. He changes it up. But it also doesn't work if they're playing aggressive and walling A. And it also doesn't work if they're playing for B main control like they did in the third round. Was it the third round? Fourth? Something like that. So this seems a little bizarre. It's like a hard read to punish the Sage. I think the problem also there is, I think these kind of ideas are designed in the early half of this map to make Ascend scared. So like... You know, the flash and dash play that they ran up A ramp is supposed to make you scared to contest A ramp early. So it gives Nats preference. So the idea of like conditioning your opponent is a lot of the time that you want to accomplish some goal later on. Okay? It doesn't benefit you to condition them to fight over areas you want to be using in the latter half portion of the half. But the conditioning they're going for at the beginning here is you can't fight A ramp early because we could be flashing and dashing onto you, or like stun sucking and dashing onto you. And that in the later part of this half is going to allow Nats easier access to A ramp to create pressure there. And in fact, you know, like this kind of setup is already doing that. This is supposed to stop them from playing Sage utility early in mid, I think. Or opping from male or something as well, because I think occasionally CNED would opt from male. But it just got so thoroughly dismantled that it doesn't even accomplish that. Whatever they were planning, as soon as those Astra Stars go down, they got a different idea. So this is just another really fast hit. They didn't see where the paranoia came from, and Defo gets isolated and dies. They trade 1-for-1 because they know where Bone Cold was, but this is not going to work. And again, this is a fast round. Gambit don't usually mix these in too much. Definitely feels like they're doing a lot more fast early round stuff than usual. I mean, CNED has a much better angle there. But that fast hit got boomed. Okay, early flash to get on this angle because they're worried about CNED opping it. A drone, and again, this is really fast into B. The drone manages to tag somebody, but they just get caught by the trips. I mean, they already tagged the Cypher. They knew the Cypher was here. But he's in the drone, so he can't shock dart, and they're trying to follow up on it really quickly. And now the pressure's been relieved, so... Oh my god, that shot from CNED. The pressure's been relieved, so CNED can do whatever he likes in mid, and they have the timing to be able to check. Whoa! Redgar's playing on Chronicle's account here. I mean, the biggest thing that they're struggling with is that they're not taking map control early and getting info before they exec. They're just execing off the rip. They didn't know that the Cypher was playing B that round before they just decided to fast push B. They flashed off the rip to gain priority on the angle because they thought CNED might be there, I guess. And then they just immediately pivot into drone pushing into B. I think you need to be feeling out where Ascend are holding so that you have a better game plan for how to support Defo. Defo is 2 and 6 right now. And it's not really because of Defo. I mean... One of his deaths, I guess he doesn't check the right-hand side and dies to Bone Cold, but he has so many different angles to be looking at. And he's just completely alone. One of his deaths there, he just gets caught in a trip. What else? What else has been going wrong for them? I can't remember. But these immediate burst hits are not good enough because you just don't have enough people in the site. And you're not getting the value out of your utility. You're pushing people away and making space. Okay, so here, let's take a look. So I think they're running the same strategy again. No, not quite. Oh, yeah, it's pretty much the same. So this is the round that went super fucking wrong for them before. Except they flashed this time. So this time, Shados swings and flashes here. So it would catch anybody peeking in mid. And then they're going to stun afterwards here with the stun already popped in male. So this is better than the last time they ran it, right? You've still got that same stun there. The timing is still the same on the dash. But this time you're coming with a flash so that people are probably going to back off into either ropes where they're smoked off or back off into male. Now, actually, CNED's a god AWPer and he's a really smart player. So I would not be surprised if CNED takes a gamble here and peeks out from this smoke because he knows their attention is going to be on male. He might not do it, but I wouldn't be surprised if he takes some liberties here because that's the kind of thing that CNED does. And Breach is still in position now to be able to fault line. This reactive Sage Wall is pretty good though because I think it's just going to block everything. I mean, Defo could updraft over the top of it and just try an ego duel whoever's in B heaven. But, I mean... Oh, and the recon is actually really nice again. So the way they're comboing it with the Sova recon darts, it's pretty fucking good. They've got all of the Astra util is getting used at the beginning of this round, right? So they've smoked in ropes. They stun Mail. They suck here for him to be able to go up and over the top. And they smoke back here as well. But this recon is lovely. I don't exactly know where this recon is landing. I think it's above hell, I think. Or like above heaven, I guess. Just judging by the minimap. But it might be in a position where it can also see rafters. I think Starzo got caught while he was like here, and he's a run around the corner. I don't know whether it would actually catch this position if he was always playing there. Again, I don't know enough about recon darts on Split because I just don't ever see Sovas and don't play Sova on the map either. But anyway, pretty cool, and it catches both players on B. They know where both of them are. CNED does... Ooh, CNED, I think... took a risk there. I mean, Defo's just running at them, trying to kill them on his own. Again, very, very different style for Defo to be playing. And he's just holding weird angles on top of Nubox and popping them in the head. You would never, ever see that kind of round from Gambit. That looks like a Vision Strikers round. You would never see that kind of round from Gambit at Berlin. Never. So that's why I'm saying that to me, this tournament was them testing fundamentally different styles of play and seeing whether they worked. And I think there's enough in here that they're executing well that they could run some of this. Some of this stuff is really, really smart. It's well thought through, conditions their opponent pretty heavily. The problem is it doesn't maximize the strengths of Shados and Nats, who are arguably your two best players, because you're playing so fast, they don't get a chance to even be like involved in the fight because they're playing Breach and Cypher. So that could definitely trip them up. If Defo's getting shut down, then their composition just looks a bit limp. But maybe they've got some nice slower rounds that they can still exec with this comp, and they were just testing the fast stuff in this tournament. It's at very least interesting. The execs are really good. And they're showcasing something very different. If you were prepping against slow Gambit, and they came out and did this shit to you, your socks would fall off.
Very, very comfortable round victory on the back of that. ACEND.
Because in a very real way, ACEND against normal Gambit will expect to have this A control and maybe be able to fight for B control and that kind of stuff. And maybe some rounds they'll be able to even walk mid against Gambit because you're expecting them to be holding safe positions in the early round. So you can take liberties, you can take space in the early round as defense with less risk. So there's less risk, and you're going to force them to re-clear that space, use utility, give away where they are. So that's the kind of prep that people will be trying to do against Gambit, about thinking, okay, how do we play against teams that just run the clock on us for the first 40 seconds? What advantages can we get in terms of map control, sneaky positions, like setups? What can we do to actually work against this? And if Gambit have some rounds where they can just explode on you in the early round, you're going to get caught. You're going to think it's low risk, and actually it's really high risk because they're fighting over the same area as you within the first 10 seconds. I mean, again, Defo is just... can we take a look at the positions here? Defo with 3 Ascend players, and then nobody else that can possibly help him because he updrafted over the top of a wall. So, I mean, it's so wildly different to their usual style of play, to the point where this kind of exec is something that, like, the Vision Strikers and the... Who else even plays like this, man, with the constant flash and dash and stuff? I don't even know. Like, some of the fast hits from C9 are a bit like this, I guess, but not on Split. Like I don't know. But anyway, most of those teams wouldn't even fight like this. Like, because their setup here is to try and punish... Again, it's the same stun suck kind of setup that's going on in A Heaven. And most teams, if they were going to run this, I think they would cancel. If they see the wall coming down here, they'd break the wall and maybe try and reactively pivot into a B Heaven push or something like this. But Defo is committed to selling this. I mean, it's the same kind of fake, I think, because they've still got the spike towards B. But they are committed to selling this. The thing is, I don't think this can ever be sold as a true fake, because this wall isn't going to get broken, because Defo can't, like, turn around and start breaking the wall. And these guys are just backing off. So, I don't know. This round looks like it's going to be a clown fiesta, but... Again, interesting because it's just so opposite to what Defo would usually do. The thing is, I mean, Jake Wake Shake, what you're saying, that they're drawing so much attention, they should be able to take B easily. Sure, you're still expecting 2 players to be around B, I think, in this instance. And there was one in mid and one at B. So the fact they've killed the mid player, yeah, now they can feel pretty confident about being able to take B. And yeah, they can play more aggressive up mid and stuff. But these guys are also going to, as soon as they've dealt with Defo, they are going to be immediately going B. There's not a fraction of a thought in their head that this is a real push into A. They just have to deal with Defo and then move on. And Defo can't stay alive for too long because he's fighting 3 people. So these guys really don't have that much of a window to play post plants. Like, they're probably going to be able to get into the site. They're probably going to be able to kill Keyless. But if Keyless can take one with him, there's going to be a fast retake coming. I guess one of the advantages, though, for Gambit is that they're playing against an AWP. So that makes it more difficult to retake. But Starzo has a free... I mean, Keyless takes one with him. Starzo has a free res in mid. CNED's got some really pushed up angle already. And CNED gets this opportunity to kill Shados because it's so easy to read that it's a fake. He was here, right? And they didn't have to re-clear A. They didn't have any thought in their head. This Sage Wall stays up, and they are instantly able to get to B, and they can push and take risks as the plant goes down. There's 3 players alive. You know one of them is going to be planting. You know their position. It's a smart risk for CNED to take, to peek through that smoke and see if he can work a pick. If someone else was holding B main as he went for that play, he probably dashes away before they get the kill on him anyway, because it's very unlikely they're going to be having their crosshair placed at the exact place he's peeking from. So it's just really smart timing and awareness from CNED, and he gets that timing because of how weird this round was and how fast the pivoting was. And now they got the free res in mid. It's a 4v2 retake. Outside of Redguard doing anything crazy, this round is essentially ACEND's.
Again, this could be incredible. Redguard around the back.
I mean, Redguard actually has made the fucking play, and Chronicle as well. This round really, really should have been ACEND's. Oh, he legged him. Oh, Chronicle's so fucking good in the clutch. Well, Gambit should not be winning that round. Let's be clear. But, I mean, sometimes Redguard just makes a fucking play and then Chronicle's nasty as fuck in the clutch. Yeah, and look, this is the same play again. I kind of dislike... They're already... To me, they might be just scrimming this, okay? But to me, if this was a serious match that Gambit cared about, you'd be wanting to slow the pace down towards these final rounds. Because what you're aiming for is that the crazy aggression you've gone for in mid and towards ramp has now made the Ascend players more passive to start the round. So it's freed you up in the early round to play more slowly. So trying to like fake smoke here and walk Nats up with, I don't know, Nats and Redguard walk up, oh, maybe not Redguard, but like, yeah, somebody. Who the fuck would it even be? I don't know. I really don't know where the Sova should even be trying to play from, frankly, on this map, but probably more towards mid. So maybe it's like maybe it is just Nats, actually. But maybe you've got, like, Nats is walking up here and trying to create a lot of pressure in these final few rounds. But running these fast plays over and over and over and over and over again makes you way too predictable, and it kind of removes the purpose of the conditioning anyway, because they're getting value now from being conditioned, right? The idea of conditioning is that you force them to adjust their play style, and then you punish the adjustment. And the punishment here would be you're playing too passively at the beginning of the round because you're respecting us. So we're now going to play more slowly and take that space for free without using the utility. But what they're actually doing is, because they're still using the util and still doing the same thing every time, it just becomes the correct response rather than conditioning. So I don't think they would do this if this was a normal match. I think they're just scrimming these fast execs. Because at this point, I mean, as soon as that smoke disappears, I mean, that was a fake smoke. It wasn't even a real smoke. But, I mean, that should be a real smoke. But as soon as, I guess this is a fake smoke because it's a variation, maybe? And they're hoping to catch somebody off guard. But the recon dart isn't even there this time. Oh, maybe the recon dart got broken, actually. Did the recon dart get broken? No, there was no recon dart. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. That's clearly not the best time that they've even exec'd that one strat. It seemed like they were just trying to catch somebody off guard, but it's such a high-risk play. Because Defo is then contesting against many different sightlines in A Heaven, and the stun suck found no value. And now you've used your dash, you've used stun, you've used suck. But not just that, you've left Defo in a position where he's continuing to take the duel instead of just falling off. Like, you've taken a ramp control at that point. That's good enough. You could take a ramp, you can cut noise, you can use that. But now you've lost a player. So, again, there's some nice ideas here. I think they're just scrimming the ideas, though. It's a bit unlucky for CNED. He was playing anti-flash for so long. This breach utility is good, though, for them to take a Heaven. This is where you would normally expect Gambit to cut noise and maybe end up going for a re-hit with... What the fuck is the Recon doing there now? I mean, either this is 5-dimensional chess and he's hoping that this Recon makes them think they actually don't have a Heaven control. Or... I don't know. Surely there's better things you can do with that Recon dart. Bizarre. Oh. CNED with a bit of a miss. Gambit, though, took a Heaven control, and they did slow things down and got pretty decent value out of the breach ult, too. They got their breach in a nice position for that ult. And their A Heaven take was pretty good. It's to throw off a timing on the side players, I think. Yeah, but that's some 5D shit. Like, there's only two real things that this Recon does. It clears this close corner, which you can actually clear yourself pretty easily because you've got like a high-low stack, right? One player can jump up on this box and another can swing around the side, and this player in the corner is fucked. I mean, if they exec this properly, I don't think you can even go 1-for-1 as a player in this corner. Sentinels did that a lot at Reykjavik when they were clearing A Heaven, and it's just fucking impossible for you to be able to get anything done. So I don't think that's a good value from the dart. The other thing the dart does is make the players on site think that these guys are not as pushed up as they are. Because there's been utility in Heaven, right? There's been stuns and stuff like that, so CNED's been forced off this angle. So they know they could be in A Heaven, but when this Recon dart comes through here, it kind of makes you think that they're only just starting to get into A Heaven, or they're about to push in based off the Recon. Whereas actually, these guys are about to swing and drop out of Heaven. So is that enough value, though, just making the players on site slightly confused to the timing? Maybe. If he had a dart for screens, that might be more useful, or even a dart that landed at elbow. The thing is, again, I don't know what darts are even available to Chronicle here. I don't know what darts he knows as well. That might be different. So maybe he only knows like one that lands here and one that lands here. I don't fucking know. And he just had to choose between the two to get some value before the sight hit. I really don't know. But I mean, like, if I'm trying to plan around Astro Wall here, I'm thinking, okay, well, we ran this play before where we flashed here and droned through, and we could Astro Wall like this, and we could still chase the drone if we have good info, but it makes it much more difficult for them to follow up on trips, and our players can still hold here. You know, if you have the Astro Wall here, you can still plant at this position. They can't follow up on any trips that are close, so if Defo gets caught on one, if someone swings back sight, you're much more likely to be able to trade it out compared to a sight line that you can't see. If the trips get cleared, you can still follow the drone past your Astro Wall if you really want to get aggressive and hunt the anchor, and then you can play post plant with like your classic lurk through mid or something. So those are the kind of ideas that would be coming to my mind with Astro Wall, but I have no idea what they've got planned. We haven't seen an Astro Wall exec from them, I don't think, in this round. So where are people positioned here? Looking like there's going to be maybe a fault line onto ropes, and then I don't know what the fuck Defo is planning on doing. I mean, if I had to guess here, it looks like a fault line ropes to try and push away CNED's position. Because what you're doing if you fault line ropes, you're polarizing CNED. Either he goes back or he pushes to a position where Defo can potentially punish him with like a flash and dash. So that could be something, right? Like you fault line here, and then the breach runs forward, flashes through this, and you're going to try and dash forwards through mid. And your hope is to try and catch a pick on CNED if he takes the risk of moving in front of the fault line. I don't know. That could be an idea. Definitely looks like this is going to be A position. So I think this one's going to turn into a smoke. This one might even end up turning into a suck, so that if he goes back from the fault line, he gets caught.
So final round in the first half. It looks like Zeke wants to go deeper in towards middle, and he's going to find.
Don't know where this fault line went.
But looks
Don't think this fault line is positioned accurately, because he's fault lining like actual ropes. So what Gambit are going for here is they're going to dash up mid with a smoke here, and they're going to stun suck ropes. So I think what they're hoping is that a player in ropes is going to fall back. By the way, they've got a suck here at vents, and I think Gambit are hoping that the player will most of the time fall back into ropes and get caught in the stun suck, and Defo will be fast up mid and be able to capitalize. I don't like that, though, because I don't think one suck is enough to force somebody to drop back into the rope room. And I think a lot of the time, you're just going to have an AWP push forwards, and you don't have a flash here, and there's no other utility, and Defo is just going to die. So I like my idea that I presented about 100 times more than I... In fact, they can't stun suck anyway, because they've used the suck in ropes. In vent, what am I talking about? So I don't even know what that extra star was there for. Maybe I've got it wrong. Maybe there's a suck here, and a fault line here, and then a stun here. That would make more sense for what Gambit was doing. Because otherwise it makes no sense. Otherwise, you're overlaying your fault line with your stun, and that's just nonsense. So the fault line must have gone here. I couldn't exactly tell from where the breach was positioned, but the fault line must have gone here. So the idea is if you run out of the suck, you're getting fault lined, and if you jump into ropes, you're getting stunned, and Defo is going to be able to follow up on any of that. Which is an interesting idea, but I think it's just really not judging for the idea that somebody could push forwards in mid. And especially when you're playing against CNED, who, if you're going to pressure him, he's going to walk forwards some decent percentage of that time. And you know ACEND have been playing triple mid earlier. And you know you haven't conditioned them to play passive in mid because that attempt completely failed. So I don't think that this makes sense either. I think this is, again, them just like essentially match testing an idea that they've come up with in scrims. And hopefully they've adjusted it so that their utility looks slightly different. There's the core of a good idea there, but the actual way that they're using it, I don't think works in reality. So it's just a reactive push into A. I think they were planning to try and split A anyway, once they had rope control, but it probably would have been a little bit of a slower round, like drone up ramp, something like that. And now they've managed to get into the site, and they're droning post plant here. God, that's lovely from Nats. He's so smart. He's so fucking good at aiming as well. Chronicle gets oh, Chronicle shocks. Wait, he shocked out at him twice as well. The first shock dart took Bone Cold down to like 5 HP, and then Gambit threw a second Chronicle threw a second one into the smoke. That was an extremely effective round as well. That look at how they traded up here. Look at this. They went 3 for 1 with their post-plant screens push. Mostly because they had drone. Drone is so fucking powerful. And it's still really powerful on split too. It's just about being able to get more value from it than using it mid every round and it getting broken. Boaster has been talking about Sova split a lot. Really? I still... Dude, Sova split could theoretically match up very nicely against teams running a lot of Viper on this map. Like, this comp on defense has a huge amount of info gathering against Viper. So you know when people put their Viper wall down like this, for example, or like this, well, Kind of like that one, but what's the fucking other one that they do? It's like this kind of wall or something. Can't remember exactly where it is. These kind of Viper walls that cause the players to struggle to gather information. Cypher's really good because you can place trip here. Actually, let me do it in a different color. You can place like a trip here, or you can put, you know, well, you can put cam here. You can try and put a cam aggressive here. You could put aggressive cams in B main, for example, to try and counter this one. You can put trips here. You know, it's good to be able to place utility on the other side of the Viper wall to be able to know whether or not it's a fake when the wall goes up. Because if the wall goes up and they don't break your stuff, well, it was a fake. You don't have to use any more utility. If the wall goes up and they break your shit, well, now you actually do need to respond to it. So that's really good. But just also having the Sova to be able to drone or recon to counter certain Viper fakes seems like it could be pretty useful too. I don't anticipate anyone other than Gambit and maybe Fnatic if they're off the goop running Sova on this map. But in theory, against certain opponents, if you've got some great ideas, it could work. Okay, let's take a look at what Gambit are doing on defense here too. So Defo's just challenging mid early. Defo drops back to another angle. I would have expected that this would be a much better setup by Gambit. Something like, for example, Defo takes early contact. That gives them the timing. Then Defo's going to set up contact and get re-flashed in by Shados. So some kind of setup like, for example, so Shados is holding like rafters here, let's say, and the Jett's going to take contact here on this far angle, right? Like on the very tip of rafters. And then when the Jett takes contact, you flash, and the flash pops around here. And, or you can even flash on this wall, actually. But you can flash this wall, and then you get to swing back in. I would expect some kind of play like this. Instead, they don't use the utility that they have, apart from the Jett one way, and they literally just shoot them. And they're going to trade 1 for 2 here, I think. Yeah. So, that seems a bit weird to me. Not really getting the advantage of... How does Redgar get 1? I mean, they thought Redgar was inside his smoke there, which isn't an unreasonable thought. I mean, again, really aggressive dash from Defo. So, seems like they were holding the stun until someone broke the cam. So yeah, I think that the cam sees the Cypher, or at least like they know the Cypher's there. And Defo just dashes at him. I mean, you've got to assume that he's stunned. And you know he's in the cam, so it's not crazy to go for that. They go for 1. They go 1 for 1. That's pretty good. Alright, so they're using slow nade. Only the slow, okay. So bonus round for Ascend. They use the slow to try and get themselves B control. What does this defensive setup look like, right? So this is our first rifle round from Gambit. They've got a star forwards here that becomes a smoke. They've got a star here that probably becomes a suck. I think Redgar pops this suck as the trip is broken. So they've got a trip just for info, and then I don't think they're actually expecting anyone to run into the trip. Maybe if they pop the smoke early enough. But I think most of the time you just suck off the trip being broken. They've got a cam here that's above heaven. So it looks to me like Defo's supposed to take contact, back away, and probably rotate fully to A if they think it's a lot of like mid control with no B presence. And if there is B presence, which there is this round, he probably falls off and plays to swing off cam. This, I think, is just a smoke in mid. But I don't really know. Maybe Defo takes contact and re-peeks off a suck or something? Don't really know. They have a double smoke set up here as well in A main. Did they stun off the rip? Double Astra smokes here and then a stun coming down like this is almost impossible to get early round A control. Like you as the attackers, you literally cannot get past this line in the first 10, 15 seconds. If the enemy team is fault lining and then smoking and sucking. It's a large investment, sure, because it uses 2 stars right off the rip. But if you want to play specifically for an orb, or you think that they're likely to go for an A hit like they are in this round, I think it makes a lot of sense. They're likely to go for a fast A hit in this round just because it's a bonus round, right? Let's take a look though. Let's see what else is going on here. Okay, they find 3. Again, these recon darts are just not getting broken because it's so unusual. They know there was a Cypher playing towards A. And they know that they just detected 3 players in B. So they're droning to try and re-clear this. They find the pick. They only saw 1. No one else re-swung. So now Redgar playing with Shados here. And that's really good. Really good value. Shados should not be re-challenging, I don't think. Because he's got great utility to retake. This is a nice play from Bonecall, but I don't think it's going to get anything. Ooh, and now Nats is going to be really scared because he's on like 20 health. Oh, and he still just swings with Defo. He's so confident. Ah, unfortunate. Unfortunate. Well, not unfortunate. Well played by Gambit. And their Sova again found extremely large value. The recon didn't get broken, and it found 3. I mean, in a world where everyone plays against Sova on this map, that recon dart probably does get broken with a high level of frequency. Like, if you were used to it, you'd be waiting for recon darts to land here or land along this wall. But people don't play against Sovas, so people never, like, why would you be pre-aiming that wall? Except if you're expecting a recon dart, which people don't because it's not baked into their brain. But the Sova found huge value because also they redrone this area to gather info after the recon dart has passed. Nats re-clears, manages to find a kill, and then they just know it's an A hit. Shados comes to try and support Redgar. Like, that round works perfectly. Let me rewind. So we've got Redgar again here with a judge, and he's going to be playing in B. So they're going to use the fault line to take B main control. So they have fault line double suck. Oh, not double suck. Fault line double star. So, you know, one of them can be a smoke, one of them can be a suck if they get pressured here. They still have double star set up towards A, so it looks the same from the Cypher's perspective. Redgar jumped past that. Redgar's using his classic there to make sure he doesn't give away that he's holding close with a judge, but I think that's pretty likely. You know, the guy with the judge survived into this round. Oh, sorry, no, he didn't survive. He died, didn't he? So maybe they don't know it's a judge. Redgar, though, feels like he's given away his position too much, so he's going to back. But ACEND is still going to have to use utility to take B main. They use Blast Pack to jump in there. That was actually fairly nice. You can see it from the minimap here. So they do a high-low peak, right? Kind of, except one of them's flying through the fucking air. But Zeke blast packs from this side and goes like, pew, so that he gets a fast peak that distracts and pulls crosshairs. And then you've got Starzo swinging afterwards. So he like sneaks in afterwards. So cool way of clearing B main, but it still accomplishes the task for Gambit. They know there's 2 players there because they've heard 2 footsteps. They've heard a blast pack. They know it's the Raze there and a second player. It's probably going to be the Sage because you know that the Sage has been playing in that area and slowing it off the rip. It's a pretty safe assumption. Now you know the Jett's in mid as well because they've been forced to dodge the drone. This could be the Jett pushing behind the drone here as well. This could be Defo pushing behind the drone here. So for CNED, as he re-clears this area, he's got to be cautious. Recon dart timing is beautiful. and kind of cool that he puts extra bounces on it so it's more difficult to break. He puts 2 bounces on it, so it actually lands in the exact same position it first hit. But yeah, cool idea. It does actually, that's one of the recon darts that's got the most, I don't know, attempt to obfuscate where it's landing, and yet it's the only one essentially that they've broken. But they were ready for that, I guess. Okay, this definitely now feels like heavy B heaven control, but it might not be a pivot into a B push. These A players should not rotate just yet. The suck is beautifully timed by Redgar. Beautifully. And Defo's dismantled this. So, on split, anytime they take mid-control, even if they push all the way into B-Heaven, even if they wall off stairs, you still can't rotate your A-Heaven players with confidence in pro play, because they can easily pivot that back into... If they just halt and pause, they can easily be going back through ropes. If you don't have information there, which they didn't, you have to anticipate that this could be an easy pivot that they could do. It's a bit like on Ascent when people go down mid, even if they wall at the bottom and break the door towards B, so it looks like a mid to B split, unless you've pushed out Gelato, I mean, and even then, you have to be cautious that they're going to go back through Catwalk and end it as an A split or a full Cat push, so. It's just the advantages of having mid control, but Gambit actually played that incredibly well. If you're trying to think about this from a sense point of view, where does the weakness appear to be in Gambit's setup? They have a pretty devastating early A main control if the breach is playing there. And you don't, if you all gather up at A and then the breach doesn't stun early, that doesn't mean they're not there. I mean, you'd have to still have other people around the rest of the map to discover where the breach is actually playing from. I feel like... I think the middle of the map is definitely the right way to be thinking about this from a sense point of view. But Keyless is kind of going to get bullied, I think, over at A. So this becomes a really difficult job, because if you think about this from a sense point of view, right? You probably want to be taking pretty heavy mid control, because from the rounds that they've played so far, it seems like the B Heaven hold is pretty weak. They got into B Heaven easily on the pistol. That round they got full B Heaven control. They just decided to pivot over to A. So this area of the map seems pretty achievable in terms of being able to get early to mid round control, right? This area seems pretty decent. The question is, how do you get this control whilst also having people on an extremity that you can push from? So you can play your Sage with a slow or your Raze to be able to control this area early on. They have sometimes been re-droning this, though, so that is going to give them a lot of information in the mid-round if you fight over there and you've got no presence towards A, but that could be feasible. You could fight really heavy B, and you could probably contact up. It's been that weak in mid. But as soon as you start thinking about A splitting, you can get the majority of your team into this position pretty easily, at least you think you can. But trying to get anyone, even just a solo lurker, to come through here seems hard. And so I'm trying to think what their decision making would be. It might just be based around the breach, because if Keyless is holding here, you know, and he like... let's say Cam's up top and it gets broken and he, you know, cages here and here. He's got to be concerned. If he's passive at the beginning of the round, he's got to be concerned that Rhaegar could be tucked here and they could have this kind of setup, which even if you cage this off to break the crossfire, you do have to be a little cautious about this, especially if Rhaegar's holding with the judge, because he's showcased that he is happy to do that. They have also a stun suck combo. A smoke and stun combo here with the fault line. What I'm thinking is that you probably want Keyless to still be playing here, and you want to be trying to grab info on where the breach is. And if the breach isn't towards A, maybe that's your timing, that's your window to try and move up ramp. Because you're not really afraid of anyone else, I don't think. I don't know that. It's an interesting idea trying to break this setup. I think mid-round contact pushing mid seems like it would be useful, though. Oh, they're going to paranoia to take B Heaven really fast. This is just a fast B Heaven split. Okay. I think this is a great idea. That's what I said. I think B Heaven's the weakest part of the map for them. And this, to me, looks like a real hole in Gambit's setup. That their B Heaven is this weak. Because with a Breach and with a Jett, there should be some really funky things you can do to stop those kind of pushes coming through. You know, you should be able to get your Breach into CT where he can flash for the Jett to re-clear, or stun. But yeah, I mean, ACEND have just won this half-buy round simply by running into B Heaven. This mid, the mid just looks so weak for Gambit. They're opping and that's it. It's like we just have the op posted there, and if Defo misses or gets pushed off, they have nothing. And they have no... I'm going to say they have no retake or like fighting options for B Heaven or A Heaven. They kind of do, because they've been like flashing and Jett one-waying and droning. But most of the time, those are just going to get broken. It's not like you're actually fighting ACEND for territory. Oh my god, what is that? But again here, they don't have enough information. So the Jett falls off, leaves the Breach to take first contact. That's not the player you want taking first contact. Still a nasty, nasty shot. But majority of the time there, I mean, this setup is just so weak even so. Jett holding here and Breach holding here is, I don't think it's even good enough. I mean, it might be. If the Jett plays a little aggro and then backs and you reflash, you know, here or here and try and fight with this crossfire, the crossfire here and here would theoretically be good, but I think a lot of the time you've just lost B Heaven control and your Jett's got walled off before you can even fight. Just because they're not getting early information in mid, and they're not they don't have a setup to actually slow them down or fight them as they're coming up. Maybe they need like a trip here or something. If they put a trip here for the flash to play off, and like the flash and the swing, something like that. Because this trip is going to give you early enough info so that your player at stairs doesn't get walled. They need something. They need something else there. I think the trip makes a lot of sense, though. Even a trip and a smoke, maybe, is... I think that would even be worthwhile to bolster Heaven. But they just look a bit weak on defense. Even this setup. If the trips have to go over to B Heaven, this setup looks pretty weak, too. Nobody really wants to take contact aggressive on A ramp. I'm thinking, so they're running the Sova in Heaven most of the time. And they're running like, a lot of the time they have Nats back here. Then they have, you know, they have like, Redgar is here. And then they have Breach and Jett somewhere in this area of the map. What I'm thinking is maybe you have your Breach play more of like an anchoring position. Kind of like Bonkar used to for Guild. And then you have Chronicle play in the same place. And it frees up Nats to be able to play a lot of utility towards B and like Cam at B. And him to be able to play smokes at B main. Because you can still drone ramps at useful times. Or through here. I guess droning ramps from all the way back there is really risky in case they just push on you. I think one of the problems though might be that on defense they're trying to have Shados and Defo play with each other too much. Droning to reclear B main is nice, yeah, but holding B as a Sova is just tragic. I mean, I guess. What do you do if they fast push you? You need so much Astra util there. I mean, you might be able to do that though if you just had Astra.
Yeah, they're not any long days 'cause it's
If you just had Astra utility and the Sova held like
12 go back in the glass.
kind of like a retake B kind of setup. I don't know. Yeah, it's not even what do you do when the drone's gone. What do you do against fast hits? What utility as a Sova is helpful against a fast hit? Recon dart. Recon dart is good, but recon dart is only good if there's safe positions to play from, which there aren't on split. I mean, there are on A, actually. If you recon dart and you play, like, A elbow or A on the site, but that's a really weird thing to do. That would only get you... That positioning would only get you value against fast hits. And the rest of his kit would be pretty poor. And then... actually, maybe that sounds bonkers, having a Sova anchor A. That sounds horrendous. But actually, if your Sova was positioned here, they can still drone to... the problem is, if they smoke this, and you drone, they can be up here, or they can be back here. Once your drone goes through that smoke, what the fuck did you check? I mean, if they smoke this, and your Sova's playing here, and you drone, do you just go up here and check this corner? Does that timing even work? Can you even get that far? I don't know. I don't know. Sova anchoring A on split sounds bad, probably because it is bad. Dude, CNED is too good. He's winning them this game. I mean, from the very beginning. Redgar has deliberately bought a judge in this OT round. Suck. Aftershock. Oh, Redgar wasn't looking. If Redgar was looking there, that play would have worked fantastically. The idea of the reclear there is really nice. Like, suck into Aftershock means that they are forced to leave, which sets Redgar up back on the angle. But Redgar just assumes that no one is going to be sat inside the Aftershock. Whereas actually, CNED, like I said before, the way that CNED plays is that if you pressure him with utility, he's frequently going to try and find a way of outplaying you. He's not looking to respect your utility. He's looking to find timings to outplay your expectations. So in there's a suck, there's an Aftershock, expectation from Redgar, they've fallen back. CNED, trying to outplay those expectations, is going to stay there until the final possible moment so that he can get a kill on anyone who thinks that's accurate and then dash away. That's part of what makes CNED a fucking incredible player, because he understands what other people are doing with their utility to counter him, and he counters those utility setups just by disrespecting them until the final possible moment and defying their expectations. Yeah. Sticky situation trying to get a good value out of Sova on defensive split, I think. There aren't any easy answers. Well closed out. Cool map though. Really cool map. Gambit not trolling, but certainly trying some entirely new ideas compared to what we've seen from them previously. Their split could not have looked more different compared to how they used to play that. Some interesting stuff.